Hello, I'm Rob Buff, President of Thunder over Carolina, and we're on the Battle of Ramsour's Mill site, which was fought June 20th, 1780, on a very foggy morning, just about sunrise. June 20th in 1780 was some of the worst fog, as it was told, through the ages, was some of the worst fog that had been seen in years. And this assisted the Patriots when they attacked the Loyalist camp. The major players in this thing were local guys, were Lieutenant Colonel John Moore, who had fought for the British at the Battle of Charlestown, which is now Charleston as we know it. He came back to Lincoln County and lived along on a plantation in the Indian Creek area. He had one of his commanders, Lieutenant Commander Welsh, was also former British regular army. They were putting together a militia directed by Cornwallis to get as many men as they could to join the British militia, to train them, to marshal them, to give them arms, feed them, and have them ready to fight with the British regulars when they moved through this area of the Carolinas. Moore did not listen. He went out and picked a fight with one of the local boys, particular Adam Reap, who was a very strong patriot who believed that the United States should be its own nation. Word of this antagonistic thing that Moore was doing to the locals kind of started to spread around, and you had players and patriot people coming from all the way from Iredell County, Sherrills Ford, Mecklenburg, down along the South Fork River, in what's now Belmont and Mount Holly. They were able to muster 400 men. Moore had already put together close to 14 to 1,500, arguably on what the numbers were, but he had not done what Cornwallis had said. He had not armed them. He had not had them ready to fight. So when the Patriots attacked, they were led by Colonel Locke, Captains Falls, and Captains Dickey, and a cavalry charge. And the main player here was Adam Reap from this county, who was a patriot. And when they attacked, they caught the Loyalists by surprise, and the 400 to 500 men wiped out the 14 to 1,500 men that the Loyalists had. The ones that didn't get killed ran away and went back to their farms, and this broke the Loyalist movement in this part of the Southern campaign. Had Moore done as Cornwallis told him to, there could have been close to 2,000 men ready to join the British Army from this area alone. But this battle broke the Loyalist movement as far as militia was concerned. And this battle was all militia. There were no uniformed people, whether they say possibly Moore had his red coat on from the Battle of Charlestown. But this is one of the significant battles that really doesn't get told a whole lot. The story of Ramsour's Mill and how it broke the Loyalist movement here in the Carolinas.
My ancestor's name was Jacob Parkerson, got sick, and they left him with a doctor there in Virginia. Well, the unit went on. Does anybody know what happened May 12th, 1780 at the Battle of Charlestown? Charlestown fell. So he was headed south to catch up to the unit and heard about the defeat at Charlestown and said, you know what, I'm not going down there. There's no reason. The unit's decimated. So he hooked up with a unit under the command of General Griffith B. Rutherford. He was the commanding general here at the Battle of Ramsour's Mill. But yeah, so that he lived through the battle, fought at the Battle of Camden, which was a loss, and was with them for a few more skirmishes and then mustered out. Lived here in North Carolina for a couple years, and when he applied for his pension, he was able to get a land grant in Georgia, which is where he moved to and died. And his grave is marked by the Daughters of the American Revolution. I have a lovely little picture of it. I haven't been there yet to touch it, but that's on the list now that this has happened. This is Lynn. Lynn came and was a part of just a member of the Ghost Walk. Tell your story.
Yeah, actually, I was living in Los Angeles and I had a week off, and I knew my ancestors were from here, but I was just raised, we were just poor farmers. There was nothing interesting. But I found out there was something about Ramsour's Mill, so I'm like, let me fly out here for a week and see what my ancestors were all about. And at the cultural center we were just at, they were really great at getting a lot of information for me. Well, David Ramsour, Ramsour's Mill, that's my 5 times great granddad. And he and his brother Johann ran the mill. And they fed the Patriots from Virginia and North and South Carolina, and they also fought here in the battle. What makes it interesting is his wife, my 5 times great grandmother, Maria Warlick, her family were Loyalists. So there's a lot of intertwining between the families here. Imagine what dinner conversations were like at night. And all these families were intertwined because not a lot of people came here to Lincolnton, so they all kind of intermarried, start building a community. So yeah, so I came to the Ghost Walk knowing I wanted to be part of this, and luckily I met Roy. He invited me right in, and right away, boom, here I am, living my ancestors' stuff. Yeah.
Listen to a lot of people's personal family. My ancestor actually fought in the New Bern district out east in North Carolina. He may have been involved in burning Norfolk to the ground.
May or may not.
Yeah.
He may have provided the matches.
But you know, when you find that personal connection to some of this stuff, suddenly the visiting these places feels different. The history itself kind of comes alive, and you appreciate it more. And the funny thing is, I think it's like 80 or 90% of Americans have a Revolutionary War ancestor somewhere. All you got to do is look. So.
We all have our own stories, and that's, to me, that's the beauty of it. It gives us a personal connection to it.
We're standing at the grave of John Martin Shuford. Mr. Shuford fought with the Loyalists. When the lines were drawn, he felt like his allegiance would be to the crown. He fought here under the Union Jack of the British flag and was shot on the battlefield, was managed to crawl away but only survived for 2 more days. Many of the Shuford family are still here in this area and are prominent citizens, and from all accounts, John Shuford was a great family man, great friend, and a great neighbor. But like I said earlier, when the battle lines were drawn, he chose to fight for the crown, and there was really no right or no wrong. It was a matter of conviction. We're standing on the banks of Clark's Creek. Jacob Ramsour's grist mill was on this creek somewhere in this area. Nobody really knows exactly for sure. But this is the creek that the retreating Loyalists crossed as to get back to their farms over in Indian Creek. Behind me is the mass grave of the bodies that were buried during Ramsour's mill. Both sides are in this grave because some of them were so badly hacked, shot, that they were unrecognizable and couldn't be identified. So they buried them all in one mass grave, and on June 20th, the SAR and the DAR have a wreath laying for all that died here at Ramsour's mill in 1780.
They do these wreath laying ceremonies at different locations, and what happens is members of the SAR and the DAR contingents come here and they pay homage to our folks that are buried here. This site, we don't know who's buried here. We don't care. It was Patriot and Loyalist buried together. It was people who came here and there was no way to identify them after the battle because there was no dog tags then. And there were people who came that knew nobody else. They fly a 13-star flag here and also a King George flag as well. The King George flag, the difference between today's British flag and that one is it's missing the red X. Okay, this was before Scotland joined Great Britain, or joined Great Britain. United Kingdom, thank you, United Kingdom. So that it was prior to that. And they fly those flags here, and I like that because, you know, again, this was no good guys, no bad guys. This was simply men who believed in a cause, and we're gonna fight for that cause, no matter what.
We're standing in front of the Warlick grave and monument, and if you recognize that name, it's probably because there are still many Warlicks that are descendants of the Warlicks buried here that are in Lincolnton and Lincoln County today, Warlick's Funeral Home being one of them.
Mr. Nicholas Warlick, he's captain of the volunteers. Philip Warlick and Israel Singh were the other people who were actually buried here or died here at this battle. And then this is commemoration of it. As I told you, see right there? That's the original stone that was put out here for.
And the battle was fought between everyday people, farmers, brothers, family members, neighbors, split between loyalists to the king and people who wanted to form a new nation with the freedoms that we have now. And if you listen on a foggy morning, you could see shadows or maybe hear the faint gunshots or the screams of people dying as this battle was fought, the ghosts that still linger on this field.